Howdy there. This is the Jerry Hinkle program with your host, me, Jerry Hinkle. We are coming to you almost live from the Schlickringen studio of the UBS network. So what's going on? Quite a few things, actually. A lot of people are talking about that 14-year-old boy with the homemade clock, so let's get that out of the way. I've been on record in the Halliburton Advocate Facebook page, as well as my own personal page, telling folks that I don't see a clock, nor do I see a bomb in there. So naturally, we all have our viewpoints regarding that. I must say that this Ahmed who made the clock is certainly making out very well for himself. He's got invitation to the White House, and he's been Mark Cuban, the software billionaire, has buddied up to him, and even Microsoft has sent him some primo gear from what I hear. So he's doing rather well. His next homemade clock will look a whole lot better. Maybe it'll be one of them you can tell time on, actually. First thing when I saw this homemade clock of his, I wondered where the potato was, because when I was a 14-year-old boy, you needed a potato in order to build a clock. It was just one of them. That's the only thing I remember from my science classes. So anyhow, and also closer to home here in beautiful downtown Mitchell, there was a fire in the little town of Platt, and it was a very tragic situation. It turns out that at least according to the investigators, that there was a shotgun that this family of six were all killed by shotgun blasts, and it appears, at least according to the investigators, that the father of the family was the one who he shot himself before he torched the house down, and so that's a sad situation. And that family and the people who were left behind, the extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, and other friends and family of those who were killed, need our prayers too. That's a sad situation to realize. And so I certainly keep all of those folks in my heart. That's my heart really goes out to them, and that's that's all I have to say about that. It's just a sad situation, and I hope all y'all will be just as prayerful for that situation. And a little farther away from home, Scott Walker has dropped out of the presidential race, so that leaves room in the cloud car for a few more, I guess. Hopefully a little less crowded. And it's a sad situation there too. Not quite as sad, but that when you're running for president, you don't even last long enough to have someone vote for you in the primary. But that's just the way it goes. And there seems to be a lot of hatred for Donald Trump for some reason, which is interesting. That that he's the one that they're all dogpiling on, and the more they dogpile on that fella, the more powerful he gets. And you love him or hate him, there's people who apparently take every word they think he's being honest, and that's kind of, it reminds me of that in a way. It reminds me of that movie, The Candidate, with Robert Redford. He this Robert Redford knew that he was going up against. He was running for Senate. For those of you who aren't familiar with the movie, he was running for Senate in California against a very popular senator. So he knew that he was just the token member of his party, so he knew he didn't really have a shot. So he took an entirely new tack on the thing, and he answered all questions honestly. He didn't go for any of that politically correct BS that usually passes for campaigning. And of course, I don't want to spoil it for you, but he did win that particular election. That was based on an actual senatorial election, and the person that he played, Robert Redford played the person who that was based on, and the actual senator, he only lasted one term. Apparently, honesty only gets you so far in politics. We'll see how far it gets Mr. Trump, his brand of honesty. It's interesting, the people who aren't fans of Mr. Trump are just sitting there in disbelief that he is ragging on these women's and the minorities, and the women's and the minorities are testing number one with him. He talks bad about women. Women's like him. He talks bad about the Mexicans. Mexicans like him. That's the way it is. The way the polls. We'll see when the actual voters do the actual voting how that turns out. But I don't know. There's something about what he's doing. He struck a chord, and I don't understand myself. I have watched many an election, and even when I was a little boy, and now that I'm an old man, I still don't understand it all. But it's kind of, to me, politics is a spectator sport, and I would, because every time I run for something, I ran for president of the 8th grade camera club because I was the only one in the 8th grade had a camera, and I still lost that election. I don't know how it's like the man who bought a funeral parlor and nobody died. It's just my kind of luck. Anyhow, so that is pretty much all we have to talk about today. So for the Jerry Hinkle program, this is your host, Jerry Hinkle, and we're brought to you by Warning Hot Salsa. And so until next time, God be with you. Do the best you can, and get out of my bathroom. You are invading my privacy.